Hey everyone, we're at CES 2020 at the Corsair suite now. Honestly, with probably definitely the coolest backdrop I've had. It's not like you can buy the backdrop or the setup at the booths, but when there is a really interesting one, I like to talk about it. We took some establishing shots. They did a good job of laying out the booth and setting up like kind of the trace layout theme for everything. Anyway, we're talking about a cooler today and then a concept case with some interesting deployment of LEDs, a bit more interesting than we typically talk about. The cooler, though, is the one that I'm the most interested in, and that's what I've got in front of me. It's the A500, which is the first air cooler that Corsair's done in many years. Before that, this video is brought to you by Gigabyte's X570 Master motherboard. The X570 Master is what we use for all of our Ryzen 3000 CPU reviews and for extreme overclocking streams with the 3900X. The Master is built to handle more current than you'll push through your Ryzen CPUs. It has actual finned heat sinks for the VRMs, and it features a massively overhauled Gigabyte BIOS. Pick up the X570 Master for your Ryzen 3000 CPU at the link in the description below. The A500 is a dual 120 setup. It's supposed to be about $100 or so, which puts it in Assassin 3 pricing territory, or maybe D15 Chromax territory. For the fans, it's two 120s. They're ML fans, and RPM range is about 400 for the low end, 2400 for the high end. Things that actually matter, though, air cooler is kind of hard to do something different that is meaningful, because at the end of the day, you're talking fin density, flow impedance, fans, and heat pipes. And there's really not much more technology to the product unless you're going to do LEDs or something. So it is hard to differentiate them other than maybe cost and things like ease of installation features. For this one, it's still technically in pre-production phase. So the bottom, the cold plate's going to be finalized a bit more, be smoothed out more from what I'm told anyway, before the final production. And it's currently set up and should still be set up for retail as a 2x8 heat pipe setup for the center, and then 2x6 for the outer edges, and then the heat pipes will end up going across the IHS, of course, to cover the dies. So 4 heat pipes total, mixing and matching the sizes, which how much that really matters really just depends more on a cooler by cooler basis than anything. It's not as simple as 8 better than 6, 10 better than 8. It's just going to depend on the cooler, because the real goal with a CPU cooler or any kind of heat pipe, GPU cooler too, is to get as much exposure from the heat pipe to the silicon or the area above the silicon via IHS as possible. And so you want full contact between multiple heat pipes. And then the outer edges, of course, you'll have some bleed over where it's not fully contacted to the area of the silicon. Anyway, the A500 it's got 12 stops on rails here, and we've got some footage of that. But I guess the goal is you can slide the fans up and down on a rail system. So if you need DRAM clearance, then cool, easy enough to get. I can kind of do it here. There you go. So it's got 12 bumps there. Just speaking from experience, we've worked with a lot of the metal wires that hook in the front and then through the back. There's some better deployments of it. Be Quiet's as an example, it falls off all the time, so it's kind of annoying to work with. Once it's on there, it's good, but assembly is annoying for those. So I do like seeing the cage. It's a hell of a lot more plastic to do it that way. But in terms of human factors, it's a good deployment. For mounting, I should note too, actually, the memory clearance is about 45 millimeters peak RAM at the bottom here, and then you can raise it as high as you need to. You do start losing performance if you go too high, but for reference, point of reference, Dominator Platinums are about 54 millimeters tall if you just need a point of reference. So ease of installation is supposed to be just, there's this plate on the top, and sockets in like that. Doesn't do anything, it's just for looks, but there's no LEDs, which I was very happy to hear. So it's just going for a more traditional, just physical look of the product without assistance from electricity. For mounting, there's 2 screws on the sides. This is not really a new type of mounting. We've seen these on plenty of coolers in the past, but you drop in a large, maybe that looks like a PH2 screwdriver down through the center, hit both those screws, socket it into the plate. The Intel mounting brackets are supposed to be standoff based, more similar to the CLCs, AIOs if you prefer, and then the AM3, AM4, there is AM3 support by the way, uses spacers because they're retaining AM3 support, which did require use of spacers, from what I'm told anyway. So yeah, set up as a push-pull for this, and pretty simple cooler implementation. For the rest, I guess we'll just have to thermal test it. It will have XTM50, which is Corsair's thermal paste. They already sell it. It's going to be a slightly smaller syringe than you could buy standalone for packaging reasons, and pricing should be $100 for the A500. Availability should be on shelf end of month, so maybe first week of February you'll see it. And I think that mostly covers the air cooler. So anyway, kind of interesting because Corsair's more or less only done CLCs for probably maybe 5+ years. I don't know off the top of my head. Let's move on to the Project Orion, the concept case that they have here. It's got some interesting LED deployments. Okay, so here's concept Orion. Corsair's done this in the past where they'll bring concept cases. Sometimes they make it to market, sometimes they don't. From my understanding, this is some form of this. It's supposed to eventually go to retail market, so it's not just a showpiece, although this current implementation is. I guess what they're showing off here is Capellix LEDs, which is a presently Corsair specific licensed LED deployment. And what they're doing is they've got 3 films set up on this, just to emphasize here, on this showpiece. It would change for retail. But there's 3 films, and the way they get the LED on glass look without having the individual diode really super visible is by rolling out a film that's got them all hooked up in serial, and there's small traces between each of the LEDs, so you get trace runs that way for each of these sets. And then they all connect. There's a pin to pad setup in the front panel, and the top of the front panel that's all hidden from view. So this talks with this panel, the LED film strips, via pin to pad up here, and then it's all powered by SATA for the setup. So I guess the need to know information is, or at least the marketing goal of the product, the would-be product, is that they can get LED display on the glass without having the visible actual electrical components for the LEDs. So you can still see the diode when it turns off. If you look, I mean, you can see it there. It's a little dot, but it's not that intrusive. So Concept Orion's the name. It is supposed to come to market. It's still getting worked on. I don't have a date yet to give you. And this is just a 465X, so the case is not new. It's just film strips with LEDs on glass panels. That's the whole thing with it. And I think that's really most of the information I have. This build of IQ behind me, this is a one-off build for communicating with the Capellix LEDs, but otherwise it's all just for showcase right now. And I guess from a commentary perspective, feel free to post your comments if you think this is something interesting or not. Is it gimmicky? Is it an actual direction with LEDs that's unique? Let Corsair know, because it's early enough in the pipeline where they could maybe take some feedback. If you have things you'd like to see instead of this or in addition to this, you do genuinely have a chance to let people know, and we'll forward the comments along to them. So that's it for the Corsair suite. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more as always. You can go to store.gamersnexus.net to help us out directly, or patreon.com/gamersnexus. I'll see you all next time.